No distortions, just the facts and the truth about issues that matter. Facts First with Christian Esqueda.
Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat. Ako po si Christian Esguerra at welcome po sa ating episode ngayong gabi ng Facts First. Wednesday po ngayon, kalagitnaan po ng linggo. At pag-uusapan po natin yung napakainit na issue po na kaugnay po dun sa nangyaring harassment ng Chinese Coast Guard sa isang Philippine Coast Guard vessel doon po malapit sa Ayungin Shoal. Okay? Liwanagin lang po natin, itong Ayungin Shoal ay pasok po sa ating exclusive economic zone, 200 nautical miles, kung saan tayo po yung merong sovereign rights na dapat na-exercise natin sa lugar na ito. Pero despite that, hinaras na naman po yung ating Philippine vessel ng Chinese Coast Guard. Tinutukan po ng military grade laser at ito po ang naging sanhi ng temporary blindness doon po sa crew members na nakasakay po doon sa BRP Malapascua, malapit po sa Ayungin Shoal. Ito po, we understand, yung mission po ay kaugnay po dun sa resupply operations dahil meron po tayo dong BRP Sierra Madre. Okay, so pag-uusapan po natin ngayong araw na ito, ngayong gabi, kasi kahapon po pinag-usapan po natin, nung nakapanayan po natin si retired Justice Antonio Carpio, yung possibility, sabi niya, dapat daw na-activate yung Mutual Defense Treaty. Pero dito, ang pag-uusapan natin ngayong gabi, what should the Philippines do next? Aside from fighting diplomatic protests, aside from the decision by the president to summon the Chinese ambassador kanina po. Okay? Makakasama po natin ngayong gabi si Professor Renato De Castro. Dati na po natin nakakapanayam si Professor De Castro dito. Isa po siyang professor ng International Studies sa De La Salle University at isa rin po siyang batikang security at defense analyst. Magandang gabi po, sir, and thank you for joining us again dito po sa Facts First.
Magandang gabi, Christian, and thank you very much again for bringing me back to your program. It's always a pleasure and honor on my part to be part of your program.
Salamat, sir. Unang-una, gaano po ba kaseryoso ito nangyaring insidente malapit po sa Ayungin Shoal? February 6, tinutukan po ng military grade laser ng isang Chinese Coast Guard vessel, yung Philippine Coast Guard vessel.
Well, it's not actually the worst encounter we had with the Chinese. No, actually, the more dangerous encounter happened on February 17, 2020. But this was not really covered by the media because this was during the Duterte administration. In this situation, you have the BRP Conrado Yap encountering a Chinese corvette. And the Chinese corvette directed its gun control director, no, against the Conrado Yap. In this case, gray to gray. So this could have triggered a major incident. And interestingly, this happened 2 weeks after President Duterte decided to abrogate the visiting forces agreement.
Mukhang
So
nagparamdam.
ang nabibigyan ng pansin is because of, it's a Coast Guard and it happened near Ayungin Shoal. But if you're familiar with incidents, and this is something we have to understand, incidents involving Chinese gray zone operations, this is not actually the most dangerous. Because in this case, in the BRP Conrado Yap versus, of course, this Chinese corvette, they are, of course, naval vessels. They're not civilian vessels.
Yun po yung tinutukoy ni Professor na gray to gray, no? Military vessels as opposed to white to white. Yun po yung Coast Guard. Ayan.
So actually, ayun yun. But we have to understand what is the essence of gray zone operations.
Okay, pero dito specific dun sa nangyari po ng February 6 kasi wala na tayong magawa, talaga nando na yung yung insidente, nagkaroon ng malaking media coverage. Gaano siya ka-importante in the current context that we are in now? In the sige po, go ahead.
It's important because we have a new president who indicated that we have to find a balance between China and the United States. And also, of course, it's just about less than a month or more than a month when he went to Beijing and he announced that, there were several agreements signed with China, and upon his return, he said we already have the hotline between the Philippines and China, but everything seems to be falling apart. No, after interestingly, even last year, when I'm terribly sorry, Foreign Minister Wang Yi came here and met our president. This was around July. He even announced the golden age of Philippine-China relation. What a golden age. Eka nga.
Tuloy pa rin no? Tuloy pa rin
Tuloy
yung
pa rin,
ginagawang pangaharas
So,
no? Despite
so
that, no?
actually, China's always been consistent. It's gray zone operation. No, so let me define what is a gray zone operation. These are political, economic, diplomatic, and to certain degree sometimes military measures aimed to change the status quo without the actual use of force.
Kasama ito doon.
Kasama yan. I still remember when I was with the National Security Advisor in 2014. The Chinese Coast Guard even blocked yung supply ship natin sa Ayungin Shoal. Consistently, they've been doing it. Ang pagbabago lang is they use a laser grade, a military grade laser, against our ship, which of course they have also done against the Australians, the Americans. So, ito lang, bagong technology, but it's still the same old trick, gray zone operation.
So basically, they're trying to seize control of that area without using military force. Actually,
Yes.
are they succeeding? Kasi for context lang doon sa mga nanonood sa atin, no, sa Ayungin Shoal, meron po tayo doong nakabalandrang BRP Sierra Madre na talagang karag-karag, bulok na, pero part pa rin ng active fleet, no? Ibig sabihin, pag ginalaw siya ng China o ng kahit anumang bansa, gulo yon, no? Pero for all intents and purposes, are they getting their way doon sa lugar na yon? Na clearly naman pasok sa ating exclusive economic zone?
I don't think so. Nandun pa rin yung 10 nating servicemen on board the BRP BRP Sierra Madre.
Sierra Madre, yeah.
We can say that the Chinese have succeeded if we withdraw those 10 service personnel and we stop the resupply. So this is a game, a long game. No, the one who uses force loses. The one who basically lost his will or go hayward or mapikon, ika nga, you lose the game. So we have to play the game. We have to understand the nature of this game.
So how should we play this game? Kasi nga, common place na to, no? Laging hinaharas ng Chinese Coast Guard.
Let them harass us.
Anong response natin dapat?
Continuous ang supply natin. And of course, this is probably the opportunity. And ito rin yata ni-raise ni Associate Justice Carpio yesterday. This might be an opportunity for us to conduct a joint patrol.
Sinabi nga niya
around that area, joint patrol, then even probably ask our ally, the United States, to at least watch from the distance, depending on their what they would like to do. Whether to escort or watch from a distance, or send a P-8 Orion, or probably show to the Chinese that they have an attack submarine in that area, to send the message to the Chinese. We are watching the developments there. Okay. Pero I think my first take would be, let's conduct joint patrol around that area.
Sustainable ba yung joint patrol at this time?
Well, let's provide the Americans a facility. We have EDCA sites.
Oh, may additional military access.
Probably that's the time that we offer the American a naval port as part of a joint. So they could maintain sustained naval presence in Philippine waters. The same way as when we had Subic Naval Base before 1992.
Okay. Yung mere presence nun, that's a response in itself. Pero ito, yung decision ni President Marcos na ipatawag yung Chinese ambassador, ano ba yun? Is there something unusual about it? Di ba normally dapat ang foreign minister yung ating DFA secretary ang magsasamon?
Not even the DFA secretary. It should be the assistant ASPAC, the assistant secretary for Asia Pacific Affairs, which is no less then my friend and my former classmate in the University of the Philippines, Ambassador Neil Imperial.
Okay. Pero dito, super high level, no? Presidente mismo yung nagpatawag.
Yes,
What does
yes.
this mean?
Probably President Marcos would like to impress the sense of urgency that what you did. I just talked with your President Xi Jinping, and it was a nice. But what's happening on ground? But I was also, surprised by the fact that the Chinese ambassador merely stated the statement of the Chinese Foreign Ministry that they own the
Yun nga eh.
waters.
Yun nga eh. Ulitin natin yung ano, no? Kasi itong isang concern po natin dito, Professor De Castro, no? Pag paulit-ulit na lumalabas sa mga pahayagan sa media yung statement ng China, baka gaslighting, di ba? Parang kasalanan pa ng Philippine Coast Guard na nandun tayo sa sarili nating exclusive economic zone. Pero pag, di ba, part yan ng strategy ng China, no? Yung you repeat a lie
Continuous, yeah.
until it becomes accepted by people, no?
Until it's because you get tired and you give way. Ganyan, gray zone operation. Then, ganun din, ilalabas natin yung arbitral ruling. So, we should also state the arbitral ruling. China has no business being there on the basis of our, the Arbitral Tribunal 2016 ruling that China's Nandash line has no legal basis.
It's a sham, in short.
Sham. Sasabihin natin, ang lakas pa ng loob ng China. Sabi nila, our claim is based on international law and UNCLOS.
Sabi nila, sa kanila raw.
I remember an incident, This was a conference in Malaysia that was held in 2018. Then you have the Chinese academic mentioning UNCLOS. Then I told him, so you're talking about UNCLOS? What about the arbitral ruling? Then sabi niya sa akin, I cannot hear what you're saying. So it's also time for our government, to tell China about the arbitral ruling. If you cannot hear it, we'll make it louder. Anyway, we also can't hear what you're saying, that this is, Chinese territorial waters.
Tsaka nga, no, sa simpleng lengguwahe lang, no, parang napakakapal naman ang mukha ng statement ng China, no. Kasi sinasabi, ang intruder daw sa lugar, yung Philippine Coast Guard vessel. Exclusive economic zone natin yan, di ba? Tapos number 2, yung sarili daw nila mga tropa acted in a professional manner. At yun lang yung ginamit. In short, parang dapat ba magpasalamat pa tayo sa kanila. Maraming salamat po. Tinutukan nyo lang po kami ng
same way yung
ng laser.
Nung kinover ng Channel 2 noon yung kinukumpiska yung mga best catch ng ating fishermen sa Scarborough Shoal. Diba, during the time President Duterte, ang broadcast nila sa kanilang mga tao are gallant Coast Guard personnel or, personnel are doing their job on enforcing China's sovereignty over, yung their Chinese word for Ayungin Shore or Scarborough Shoal. So, dapat harapin din natin.
Tsaka sir, di ba may legal cover, may quote-unquote legal cover sa kanila as far as they are concerned. Itong ginawang panghaharas ng Chinese Coast Guard dun sa vessel ng Pilipinas, di ba? Dahil pinayagan yung Chinese Coast Guard to actually conduct law enforcement operations doon sa lugar na kine-claim ng China as its own, di ba? So basically more than 85% of the South China Sea.
Ito yung difference ng Chinese Coast Guard tsaka ibang Coast Guard sa buong mundo, no? Halos lahat ng Coast Guards sa buong mundo, sabi nga nung aking kaibigan, si Commodore J. Tariala ng Philippine Coast Guard, lahat yan law enforcement. Constabulary at sea. Pero yung Chinese Coast Guard na iba. Ang Chinese Coast Guard is to assert China's maritime sovereignty, assert sovereignty. So ayun yung difference ng Chinese Coast Guard. Talagang nasa mandate nila is of course assert China's sovereignty over these waters. So we have to understand the very nature of the Chinese Coast Guard. Tsaka karamihan ng mga barko nila galing sa People's Liberation Army's Navy. So they're armed with 76mm cannons and other machine guns. Hindi inalis ng People's Liberation Army's Navy yung mga armaments doon, pininturahan lang nila ng puti.
Ito,
so, yun yung game. Yes.
Anong tingin niyo rin sa statement naman coming from the Department of Foreign Affairs? Medyo malakas to, ha? The Philippines has a prerogative to conduct legitimate activities within its exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. Sabi niya, China does not have law enforcement rights or powers in and around Ayungin Shoal or any part of the Philippine EEZ. Maliwanag pa sa sikat ng araw po yan, no?
Yes, but you have to back it up with our Coast Guards, with the
Mm.
presence of our Coast Guard. Sinabi naman din yan ni Admiral Abu we would continue sending patrols, we would continue providing support to the resupply operation of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Talagang we have to do what is necessary. We should not be concerned about China being angry or we're hurting the Chinese feelings. My goodness, we have to go beyond that.
At least ba
China's playing hardball. We have to play hardball, but with a recognition, of course, that China has all the resources. So we have to play it wisely.
Kahit pa paano ba nakakita kayo ng more promising signals under this new administration kumpara dun sa Duterte administration? Kasi doon,
Definitely.
napakabahag ng buntot ng administrasyon. Although excuse nila, ayaw natin ng giyera eh. Again, foreign policy is much more diplomatic than, much more complicated than that and sophisticated. Hindi po tayo nag-advocate ng giyera dito, no?
Yes,
You
of
have to
course.
make that clear. Pero yun nga, di ba, napakabahag ng buntot ng response nung Duterte administration. Ano po yung nakikita niyong promising signals ngayon?
Well, unang-una pa lang, hindi pa siya naging presidente. He already acknowledged the ruling.
Yung
Right?
ang tagal bago
Yeah.
yung ang tagal bago ginamit ni Duterte, di ba?
It took him 2020. I think during the height of the pandemic, that's the first time that the Department of Foreign Affairs acknowledged the ruling. July 16, 2020. Finally, I think it has something to do with the pressure exerted by the former Foreign Secretary, Teodoro Locsin.
Yeah.
So that's this current administration immediately announced that it acknowledges the ruling. At the same time, of course, dramatic din yung effort niya to repair our alliance with the United States.
This new administration.
So probably it's high time that we use our, the ace in our sleeves. And that is, of course, our alliance with the United States. And, of course, also our security partnerships with Australia and, of course, Japan.
Okay.
So if we want really to raise the ante, probably it's high time that we conduct a joint patrol with the United States and Japan along the vicinity of Ayungin Shoal.
Okay. Ano naman yung response rin sa sinasabi ng iba na we also have to thread this carefully. Kasi parang lumalabas dito, although this is pretty obvious din naman, no, na we are being caught in a proxy war between the United States and China in this part of the world, which is basically our neighborhood.
Oh, it's not proxy. Kasi the notion of proxy is not we are being used as a puppet. Now, it's not in our interest to defend what we believe is ours. No, it's not a proxy war. The United States is not engaged in a proxy war with China. The United States is openly engaged in a strategic competition with China. So why won't we take advantage of that situation wherein, of course, the United States is offering us options on how to deal with China? The notion of being proxy means that we are mindless. We are not capable of making decision. That our decision to have maintained this alliance and expand EDCA, is an indication that we are capable, we are active actors that have the free will to make a decision. So I don't think we are not that dumb to be used as a proxy. That's a very, very simplistic notion that the Philippines is being used as a proxy.
Okay. So dito, paano po maiiwasan yon? How should we play our cards in this particular case?
We have to deal with our allies. We have to talk with our allies. You have to make it a point that we advance our interests at the same time. We try to. Of course, we have to know how to play the alliance game. No, it's a complex process. Especially given the fact yung ally natin, our only treaty ally, happen to be a superpower. So we have to play it wisely.
Dito ba, do you agree dun sa sinasabi ni Justice Carpio na we should trigger the MDT, the Mutual Defense Treaty?
Actually, I think it might be too premature kasi wala pa talagang actual use of force. pag may actual use of force na talaga. I think that's the time that, in fact, no, interestingly, Christian, no, when Vice President Kamala Harris came here, she gave a statement, no, that I find it very interesting that not a lot of people notice this. No, yung statement niya ganito, I check it, please check it. Any attack on Philippine public vessel, land, sea, or air, and the armed forces of the Philippines will trigger the Mutual Defense Treaty.
Maliwanag
Ayun yung
na.
American interpretation.
Oo. Kasi nung panahon ni Obama, I remember nung reporter pa ako niyan sa Malacanang, covering for the Inquirer. Nung bumisita si Barack Obama, matindi pa yung language engineering na ginamit nila dyan, di ba? The most that they said was, to that very clear question, ang sagot ni Obama dyan, ironclad support from the US. Pero ito, mas malinaw, di ba? Yan ang interpretation ng United States.
Interpretation that it will invoke. So we actually don't need to invoke it. The United States, from the American perspective, any attack, immediate attack, would automatically lead to the invocation of the Mutual Defense Treaty.
Okay.
Put
Ito
the
may
Mutual
tanong.
Defense Treaty, put the Mutual Defense Treaty on its, rightful process.
Ito sir, may tanong na I think representative of a lot of concerns coming from ordinary Filipinos, no? Ano raw po mangyayari if China continues to patrol beyond their quote-unquote claimed territory?
Dalawang aspect yan, no? By conducting their patrol, they're laying their claim. At the same time, their patrol is aimed to prevent us from patrolling and, of course, affecting our jurisdiction. So if we allow the Chinese to patrol those waters without challenging them, eventually that will become, it is a de facto, what's the term for this? De facto realization of China's 9-dash line claim. So we have to continuously challenge it, short of actual use of force.
Short of actual use of force.
Yeah, we have to play the Chinese game.
Ano yung nun? Teka lang. Sige, napaka-interesting sinabi nyo, no? Short of actual use of force on the part of the Philippines. Pero kasi
Yeah.
wala tayong gray zone tactics, di ba? China
Yeah,
meron.
we have to develop. We have to learn.
So,
Kaya
paano
part
yun?
the Americans and the Soviets during the Cold War were playing this game, the Soviet Navy and the United States Navy. Kaya
So,
nga
ano yun?
meron silang mga agreements noon on how to manage it.
Ibig sabihin ba, sir, dapat mag-deploy na rin tayo ng mga fishing vessels na nagpapanggap na mangingisda pero meron palang mga baril at under
Wag
the
naman, that's too much.
direction of the Navy.
Just
Hindi
hold
naman.
on. Hold on to sa Yungin Shoal. Probably it's also high time that we allocate more budget to the Philippine Navy and of course the Philippine Coast Guard, so we can get better ships, and we also have to start training more Filipino for the naval services. Ang dami nating in-export ng mga seafarers. Samantala yung Navy and Coast Guard natin are considered the weakest in the region.
Oo nga. No?
We are
Pero we
a
have
maritime, ano ba sinasabi ko? We
state.
are an archipelagic state. The Filipino people is a maritime nation. So probably we have to realize this by building up our naval capabilities, both the Navy and of course the Coast Guard. It's only natural for the Philippines, just like Japan, just like the United Kingdom, to become natural maritime powers. And if we will allow China to control yung waters around us, that will prevent us from realizing I considered my dream for the Philippines to become a naval power, no different from Japan and of course the United Kingdom.
Okay. Ito sir, may isang tanong from mali napindot natin. Basura yung comment na yan, napindot natin.
Yung military station. Hindi niya
naintindihan. Huwag yung pansinin yan, papansin lang yan. Dito tayo sa tamang tanong. Kay Floyd Dizon, sabi niya, what are the implications if the Philippines turns Pag-asa Island into a military base?
Actually, it's practically a military base. You have Marines there. But it's, compared to, let's say, Mischief Reef and other Chinese militarized structures, walang-wala. Pag-asa Island is nothing. Compare just for example what China had done to Mischief Free.
Oo, oo, tama. Hindi nga natin maayos yung ano natin eh, yung
Runway
airstrip, 'di
natin
ba? Yung
runway.
runway.
Mm.
Oo. Ano palang update doon sa runway na 'yon?
I think it's already operational.
Pero
But
na ano ba siya? Talagang na-rehabilitate?
yes, it could at least based doon sa mga visits, for example, visit ni Secretary Lorenzana, and I think a number of uh, I'm teaching in the National Defense College. So
Mm.
we have some I forgot the specific term where we send our students for a tour of Pag-asa Island. So I
Ano yun,
think
parang
those have been
immersion,
happening.
parang
Yes.
immersion,
Exposure, I think.
exposure
Yeah.
trip.
So
Okay.
yeah, to
O sige, finally Professor, ang tanong natin dito, are we do we have a better foreign policy now in terms of dealing with China under this new administration?
I think it's more balanced. Balanced by the fact that we have been improving our alliance and security partnership with the United States, Japan, and South Korea. I think it has, I would say, a more clear-eye view of how we would achieve, no? Yung tinatawag nating independent foreign policy. No?
Mm.
Kasi ayun nga my explanation regarding independent foreign policy. We took it from the Constitution. The Constitution simply provides us a goal, no? How we would achieve or reach that goal depend actually on your president. No, the president has two functions according to the Constitution. Number one, the architect of Philippine foreign policy, and number two, of course, the top diplomat and the commander-in-chief.
Of the
So
Philippines.
President Duterte tried to achieve independent foreign policy from distancing us from the United States and trying to effect a rapprochement with China,
Mm.
thinking that having a rapprochement with China, an appeasement with China, would moderate Chinese behavior. Unfortunately, that did not happen. China became emboldened by our appeasement policy. So, in the latter years of the Duterte administration, he realized that China could not be appeased. So, next administration, probably this current administration, has learned from the experience of the Duterte administration. If you appease China, China would eat you alive and kicking.
Mm. At
So
alam
you have
naman
to be
natin,
very careful with dealing with a raging and of course fire-breathing dragon.
at,
So you have to protect yourself by, of course, putting on insulation in the form of strengthening your alliance with the United States and building up. Last December, President Marcos announced that he will fund the third phase or the third horizon of the modernization program.
ng
No?
AFP.
Ang AP, ang importante dyan is China is taking us for granted simply because of the fact that China knows we are not armed and we lack political will.
Yeah, at paiba-iba ng policy
Iba yun ang
per
policy.
administration.
China has always been consistent. Ayun ang
Alam na,
masasabi ko doon sa Chinese.
alam na yung weakness ng ating political system, no?
Mm.
Well, maraming salamat Professor Renato De Castro for another insightful interview. Tuwan-tuwa yung mga nakikinig sa atin, no? Dun sa inyong mga kuro-kuro. Maraming salamat, sir. And
Again,
hope to
thank
see
you
you
very
again.
much for bringing me here, and I am at your beck and call. Lalo na, of course, of our you're a colleague of my wife at the University of Santo Tomas.
Kasi yung wife ni Professor De Castro, professor po, co-teacher ko po. Pero I don't even want to hazard to say na co-teacher. Kasi senior no.
You together, she already considers you as a colleague, a highly esteemed colleague who has principles in life.
Bigatin yung asawa niyo po eh. Big time historian po yung asawa ni Professor De Castro. Okay, sir. Maraming salamat.
Okay,
and
regards na lang sa family mo.
Apo. See you again, sir. Thank you po.
Okay.
Yan, Professor Renato De Castro, ang ating po nakapanayam. Sana mas nadagdagan yung kaalaman nyo, no, tungkol dito sa issue ng South China Sea. Yung binabanggit yung appeasement policy, kung alam po natin yung kasaysayan natin, alam natin na hindi talaga nag-work yung appeasement na yan. No? We saw that in the Second World War. Alam niyo po yung nangyari, no? We appeased, they appeased the monster who only became an even bigger monster. or si Hitler yun. Hindi ko na sinasabing Hitler si yung China ngayon, diba? Pero sinasabi natin appeasement policy na yan. Alam natin hindi nagwo-work, no? And doon nakarang administration, well, marami kasi mga apologies si President Duterte ng time na yun, no? Pati may ibang mga analyst nga, di ba? Sinasabi, tatalino nila, bobo yung mga nagsasabi na, but parang masyadong sip-sip yung Duterte administration sa China nung panahon na yun. Nung kampanya, sabi niya sasakay siya ng jet ski, tapos magtatanim ng Philippine flag doon, no? Tapos parang i-offer daw niya yung buhay niya in defense of the Philippines. Ano nangyari? Bakit for the greater part of the Duterte administration, puro appeasement, no? Puro, ano ba? Puro pagtatanggol sa China yung nakita natin. Of course, sasabihin ng iba, ayaw niya kasi magkagera eh. Gusto lang po nating linawin doon po sa mga nag-embrace ng ganung mentality na napaka-simplistic. No? Hindi po porke sinasabi natin na dapat mas naging assertive si President Duterte sa karapatan ng Pilipinas doon sa ating exclusive economic zone, which is the West Philippine Sea. Hindi po ibig sabihin na gusto natin makapagbakbakan sa China. Dahil in between peace and war, napakalawak pa rin po ng options when it comes to diplomacy. Kaya wag po kayo maniniwala doon sa mga walang kakwenta-kwentang troll na nagsasabi na pag sinabi mong tumindig sa China, hindi ibig sabihin gera. Wag po kayo maniniwala rin sa mga loko-lokong nagsasabi na, no? Kasi marami pong options in between, no? Hindi po natin kailangan umabot sa isang armed conflict with China. We can do a lot of things in terms of asserting our rights, no? Kung titingnan niyo po yun, siguro, let's take advantage of this also, no? July 2016, doon po lumabas yung ruling ng Permanent Court of Arbitration. Ito po yung PCA. Dito po dumulog yung Pilipinas noong 2012 para po tanungin yung arbitral tribunal na yon. Teka, once and for all, linawin nga po natin kung ano-ano po yung mga karapatan natin dito sa West Philippine Sea. Kasi again, yung pong ruling na yun na lumabas noong July 2016, hindi po sinasabi nun, hindi po niya sinesettle yung territorial conflict or claims among those claiming parts of the South China Sea. Kasama po rin yung Pilipinas at saka yung Sina. Ang sinasabi po ng ruling na yon, kina-clarify niya, sino ba yung may karapatan sa ano? Okay? So, nilinaw po rin kung anong karapatan ng Pilipinas pagdating po dun sa ating 200 nautical mile exclusive economic zone. Ito po yung bahagi na tinatawag nating West Philippine Sea. Wala pong karapatan mag-encroach doon yung kahit anong bansa, including China. Pwede silang dumaan, freedom of navigation, pero hindi sila pwedeng kumuha ng resources doon. Tayo lang po ang merong karapatan doon sa resources doon. At ang tawag po ron, sovereign rights. Ang tanong, bakit itong Ayungin Shoal, pasok doon sa ating exclusive economic zone, bakit parang tayong hirap na hirap makalapit doon? Kasi meron po tayong BRP Sierra Madre, i-google nyo na lang po, isa po siyang bulok, karag-karag, at talagang hindi na naman umaandar, mapapakinabangan na Navy vessel. Pero nakabarandra po yun doon kasi strategic Kasi nasa active fleet pa rin siya ng Philippine Navy. So pag may gumalaw doon, gulo yun. Okay? So strategic yun nandun. Kaso meron lang mga hanggang 10 military personnel na nagro-rotate doon sa lugar na yon. Tapos, periodically, pinapadalhan sila ng supply. Yun po yung tinatawag na resupply mission. Pero yung resupply mission na yon, talagang pinapahirapan tayo ng China para makaabot doon yung supplies, yung pagkain, iba pang mga pangangailangan. So, hindi ba kayo nabibuisit, no? Exclusive economic zone ng Pilipinas, meron tayong sovereign rights over that, pero tayong pinapahirapan ng China. Tapos, ano yung basis? Bakit kiniklaim pati yung parte na yon ng China? Ang sinasabi kasi ng China, meron daw silang 9-dash line. Ito po yung doktrina nila na tinuturo din sa mga schools nila, no? Balik po tayo dun sa PCA ruling 2016. Sinasabi po ng Permanent Court of Arbitration ruling, wala pong basis. In short, walang kwenta. Yung 9-dash line, doctrine o claim ng China. At hindi yun pwedeng gamitin para i-claim yung around 85% ng buong South China Sea. So in short, hindi valid yung claim ng China. Ang tanong, bakit sila pa rin yung naghahari-harian dito sa lugar na to? Kasi nga, nagkukulang din syempre, malaking bansa, it has all the resources, meron siyang Navy, tsaka Coast Guard fleet na kaya mag-ikot, di ba? Tapos 'di ba tinayuan nga ng military installations yung ilang bahagi ng ng South China Sea, 'di ba? Yung gumawa sila ng artificial island at nilagyan siya ng military facilities, 'di ba? So, ganun kalalay nangyayari. At iba ron, talagang nag-encroach na sa exclusive economic zone ng Pilipinas. O nagagawa nila yon kasi bully sila at meron silang resources. Tayo, of course, yung sinasabi dun sa isang panayam natin ni Justice Castro, Carpio, right is might. No? Dito, ang ginagawa ng China, might is right. Kaya nga dapat maging maayos yung approach dito ng ating kasalukuyang pamahalaan. And to be fair to the Marcos Jr. administration, we're seeing a lot of promising signals when it comes to dealing with China over this dispute. No? Kasi ang daming nawala sa ating opportunities. Maraming nawalang openings during the previous administration. And kailangan nating we have to make up for that. No? We have to make up for lost time. And again, to be fair to President Marcos, he's doing the right things, pushing the right buttons when it comes to dealing with China. Hindi sinasabing makigera, no? Nandun pa rin dapat yung engagement, nandun pa rin engagement pagdating sa ekonomiya, pero pagdating naman dito sa pambu-bully sa South China Sea, sa West Philippine Sea, dapat maliwanag naman yung red lines natin. Dapat walang paghimod, walang pagsipsip, walang pag-apis sa China, tulad ng nakita natin noong nakaraang administrasyon. Okay. Shout out kay Rosana Narumi. Good evening, Sir Christian. Pa-shoutout naman po yung Tindig Pinoy Japan 2023. Yan, maraming salamat po sa inyo sa panonood nyo. No? Maraming salamat po kay Rosana Narumi o Rosana Narumi. Sino pa ba? Tayo patas lang tayo dito. No? Sabi ni Johnny, I'm not a BBM supporter but I agree with this international policy. Well, yun nga, ganun kasi ka-forgettable yung ginawang policy ng naka-administrasyon. Kaya maayos yung nakikita natin, at least so far, no? Magandang ginagawa ni President Marcos padating doon sa pakikitungo at pag-deal sa China. Ayan. So, nagpapa-shoutout din si Andrea. Sorry, lalapit ako sa screen. Yan. Ganitono, Ganitano. Ayan, si Jun Sim watching from Japan. Marami tayong tagapanood sa Japan ngayon, no? Ayan, si Norberto Del Mundo, si Josu Hernandez watching from Canada and USA. Uy, dalawang lugar mo. Mahirap yun nagte-teleport ka. Si Raquel Pangilinan Blantucas. Wala ba ako sa Facebook ngayon? Nandun ako. Ganun ba? Kasi in advance ko yung oras. Delayed. Kasi dapat nag-start tayo ng 7:30 pero medyo na-late yung guest natin. So ginawa ko siyang 7:35. So nagloko ba? Pasensya na kayo. Teka, chine-check ko lang yung Facebook natin. Ayan. Meron Ayan Meron naman Kaya talaga. Kinabahan ako doon. Ayan. Ay nga pala, sa Friday, may pag-uusapan tayong maganda. Diba merong binagong titik or salita doon sa Panatang Makabayan. Pag-uusapan natin Panatang Makabayan sa Friday among other topics, no. Meron tayong na-invite na isang historian. Ayan, kausap natin siya. Naalala niyo pa ba yung Panatang Makabayan? Doon po sa mga ka-generation ko, sa mga kabatch ko, naalala niyo pa ba yung panunumpa na ginagawa natin every day sa ating school, sa flag ceremony? Ayan. Pag-uusapan po natin yan. Gaano ka-crucial yung naging decision ng Department of Education na palitan yung isang salita doon po sa Panatang Makabayan. Jonathan. Awat na, Jonathan Trinidad. Ayan. Ayun, sana mas naintindihan yung issue rito sa South China Sea, no? Kasi marami tayong matatilinong mga trolls dyan, no? Kahit anong legal, mental, and the illogical calisthenics talagang ginagamit nila to justify the appeasement policy of the previous administration, no? Kumaga, walang boundaries ang pagsipsip, no? Dahil sa kagustuhan sumipsip, ipagtanggol yung puon nila, yung mali, itatama, no? Yung tama, babaluktutin. Okay, maraming salamat po. Kita-kita po tayo ulit sa Friday. And again, dun po sa mga nakikinig sa ating podcast, maraming salamat po. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Kung ano man yung ginagawa nyo, nagja-jogging, naglalaba, kumakain, maraming salamat po. Okay? Thank you very much. And again, maraming salamat po.